Today we've got, well, it's a single narrative, but it spans generations, and we're going to pull out the essential truths hidden inside.
Yeah, in our mission today, it's pretty profound, actually. We're unpacking a mystery that goes back decades to wartime France.
All triggered by a single reunion invitation. And it represents two incredibly different lives.
Exactly. Two sisters, Vianne and Isabelle. And we're really looking at the choices they had to make during the German occupation.
Yeah.
Just agonizing choices, moral, personal.
And it forces you to ask, what even is heroism? Is it quiet compromise, or is it loud, defiant rebellion?
It's both, maybe. That's what we're exploring.
Okay, so let's unpack this. We should start where the story itself starts, which is the contemporary frame.
Right. 1995, April 9th, to be exact, Oregon coast.
And we meet this elderly woman, she's our narrator, in her home, The Peaks, which is quite a name.
And she's dealing with a tough medical diagnosis. And on top of that, her son, Julian, he's a doctor, loving, but very observant, very precise. He's basically trying to manage her entire move, her whole life, really.
Yeah, she feels kind of controlled by him.
Well, yeah, and what's fascinating is how she talks about it internally. She gets it, she understands it's his way of showing love, especially now that she's sick.
But it makes her think.
It does. It forces her to confront this lifelong feeling she's had that her life, her existence, it's been, quote, incomplete.
Incomplete. That's heavy.
It is, because she realizes the version of her that Julian knows and loves, this quiet, stable woman that's only half the picture.
Yeah.
And now, facing the end, she feels this, urgent need to be truly known before it's too late.
And the thing that kicks us all off isn't some big talk with Julian.
No, not at all. It's physical. It's an object, an old steamer trunk from the attic.
Covered in faded travel stickers, just sitting there for decades.
She gets it down, somehow drags this heavy thing down the stairs, and opens the lid. First time in 30 years.
Wow, 30 years. Imagine that moment.
It's the perfect symbol, isn't it? A history literally locked away. And at first, what's inside is, well, it's what you'd expect.
Right, stuff from her life on the coast. Baby shoes, little hand molds, crayon drawings.
Some old leather-bound journals, too. But that's just the top layer, the surface.
Because underneath all that, that's where the surprise is.
Exactly. A small ecru card. Looks official. An invitation from Paris.
And it mentions the Croix de Guerre. That's a pretty major military decoration.
It is. And it announces a reunion for passeurs.
Passeur. Okay, what does that mean exactly?
Guides. Smugglers, essentially. People who guided others across borders, often during the war.
And this invitation, it specifically mentions
the Nightingale escape route. That's the key. It connects this quiet woman in Oregon directly to a critical, incredibly dangerous wartime mission back in occupied Europe.
These passeurs, they weren't soldiers then.
No, not usually. Often civilians, women sometimes, risking absolutely everything to get down airmen, escapees out of occupied territory.
And Vianne, our narrator, she has this really sharp observation right at that moment.
Oh, it's crucial. She thinks men always think war is about them.
Oof, yeah.
Because her son, Julian, he immediately assumes the invitation must be about his dad, Antoine, who's deceased. But the invitation itself, talking about the Nightingale route, the passeurs, it points straight to the women, to the hidden resistance.
That line, men always think war is about them, it just sort of, it indicts how history often gets written, doesn't it?
Completely. It tells you Vianne spent 50 years watching the men define the war, while her own story, her sister's incredible story, was just shut away in that trunk.
So that sets up our deep dive perfectly. We need to uncover the story behind that invitation, these two lives.
Vianne choosing quiet survival, compromise.
And Isabelle choosing bold, risky resistance.
Two sisters, same war, radically different paths to survive.
Okay, let's shift focus then. Let's go back to Vianne's world, Clairvaux, France, starting around, 1939, 1940?
Right at the beginning of the storm. And Vianne Mauriac's life just gets torn apart immediately. Her husband, Antoine, he's just a postman.
A normal guy.
Totally normal.
Yeah.
And he gets mobilized, called up to be a soldier, leaving her alone with her little girl, Sophie, at their home, Le Jardin.
It must have been terrifying. But her reaction, it's deeper than just fear of this war, right?
Yeah, it's shaped by the last war, World War I. Her father came back from the Battle of the Somme.
God, the Somme. 750,000 casualties, just unimaginable.
And he came back limping, silent, drinking.
Yeah.
Just ignoring the family, broken. And Vianne's deepest fear isn't just that Antoine might die. It's that he'll come back like that, shattered, emotionally gone.
So her focus instantly changes. Survival, that's it.
Absolute survival. And the reality is incredibly stark. Life at Le Jardin is suddenly about extreme scarcity, gas, electricity. They're unreliable, sporadic, pipes freeze, and dangerously low. The source material really emphasizes how she starts obsessively counting the little money Antoine left, like rationing the cash itself, trying to hold back the inevitable.
And she starts changing the property too. Le Jardin.
Oh, yeah. It becomes a total survival operation. It shows this pragmatic grit she has. Even the romantic pergola, the place that symbolized their early love.
Yeah.
Chicken wire, rabbit hutches, a manure collection point for the garden she's frantically planting. She knows instantly she can't rely on anything external. She has to make Le Jardin a self-sufficient fortress for Sophie.
But the outside world doesn't stay outside for long.
No. The Germans arrive. And then comes the billeting. A German officer moving into her home.
Captain Beck.
And Vianne's strategy is just disappear.
Yeah.
Become invisible. She wants to be a little wren, she thinks. Draw no attention. Be quiet, compliant. Hope they just leave her alone.
Simple enough plan. But Beck himself, he makes it complicated.
Right away. Because he's not the monster she expects. He's described as handsome, polite, almost friendly. Alarmingly so.
He tries to act normal.
He does. He talks about his own life back home. His wife, his kids, a son and a daughter, Gisela. It creates this weird, temporary wall of normalcy, even as his very presence is this constant invasion. It forces Vianne to be incredibly careful, emotionally.
And then Beck does something unexpected, something kind.
Immensely kind, almost unbelievable in the circumstances. He uses a friend, goes out of his way to deliver a private letter from Antoine, a real letter. Not just one of those awful POW postcards.
Antoine's in a POW camp by now.
Yes. And this letter, it becomes everything to Vianne, her emotional lifeline. Antoine calls her his sunlight in the dark, the ground beneath his feet.
But getting that letter comes at a cost.
A huge cost. Vianne knows it immediately. She's now indebted to the enemy. And that debt demands compromise.
What kind of compromise?
She starts longing Beck to join them for supper, most nights.
Sharing her home, her table with the occupier.
Exactly. It's transactional survival. He brings food, ham, flour, sausages, things they desperately need, especially for Sophie. So Beck shifts from being just the invader to, a necessary part of their survival. She can't afford to hate him completely. He's feeding her child.
That's the core of her struggle, isn't it? This constant moral tightrope.
Absolutely. It's her moral warfare. She's trading pieces of her integrity, her peace of mind, her autonomy to keep Sophie alive. The survival of the family unit comes before, the purity of absolute defiance.
And while this tense situation plays out in her house, the war outside gets uglier. The persecution ramps up.
Yeah, the anti-Jewish measures start hitting Carreveau directly. Propaganda posters go up. No Jews allowed.
And it becomes personal for Vianne.
Devastatingly personal. Her best friend is Rachel, and Rachel and her children are forced to wear the yellow star.
God. The source describes that star
with horrible clarity, marked WWII in black. And the cruelest part, they had to buy the star using the ration card.
Ration cards. For food.
Yes. Rachel explains it to Vianne. If they don't wear it, severe sanctions. So they have to use the coupons they need for food, just to wear the mark of their own dehumanization.
Does Beck know about Rachel?
He seems to. And here, we see another flicker of his conscience, maybe. He warns Vianne there's going to be a search, a roundup.
So Vianne acts.
Immediately. She hides Rachel and her kids, Ari and Sarah, in the cellar. It's cold, subterranean, under the barn, hidden behind their old Renault car.
So she's moving from just being compliant to actively hiding someone. That's a bigger risk.
It is, though still hidden. But then things escalate. She has to help Rachel try to flee to the free zone. They need false papers.
Which cost money
or something valuable.
Right.
Rachel has to give up her wedding ring to pay for the papers. The price of potential freedom is her past, her memories.
And the escape attempt.
It ends in absolute tragedy. At a checkpoint, German soldiers. They shoot Sarah, Rachel's little girl, in the back. And Rachel herself is deported. Sent to a work camp in Germany. Sarah's death. It's Vianne's first direct, brutal encounter with the reality of wartime murder.
How does she cope with that?
The guilt, the grief,
Yeah.
It's immense. She has this ritual. She rips the lace from her collar like a symbol of her old, polite life and ties it to a dead apple tree in the garden. Her tree of remembrances.
She'd done that before.
Yes, a scrap for Antoine when he left. Now, a scrap for Sarah. It's her silent way of processing, something nobody else sees.
But the danger isn't over. It gets worse.
Much worse. Beck tells her later. The Wehrmacht, the regular army, they're out. Now it's the Gestapo and the SS in control. And he warns her they are more brutes than soldiers.
And they have new orders.
Yes. The final unthinkable step. They're going to start deporting all Jews, regardless of age, birthplace, even French-born children under 14.
Children.
That's the line Vianne cannot let them cross. This is the moment she stops being the little wren trying to hide. She has to actively save a life. The stakes are absolute now.
So she makes the ultimate sacrifice, creates the ultimate secret.
Yes, Ari, Rachel's son. She hides him in her home, but she has to erase Ari.
Erase him.
She creates a whole new identity. He's Daniel now. Her adopted brother, supposedly sent from a cousin down in Nice. She cuts his hair short, drills the story into him. This is the truth now. Even when they're alone, they can never slip up.
And this dangerous lie gets tested almost immediately.
Yeah. Captain Beck disappears. He'd been agitated, apparently, because a downed airman hadn't been found in his sector. Maybe he was paying the price for being too lenient.
And his replacement
Is the opposite. SS Officer von Richter arrives. Silver iron crosses, impassive face, that glossy black hat. He radiates menace.
Not like Beck at all.
No warmth, no compromise visible. And he immediately sees Vianne's vulnerability.
Her children,
Yeah.
Sophie and Daniel.
Exactly. He weaponizes her fear for them. He starts threatening to question the children intensely if she's caught working with resistance people, like a man named Henri Navarre.
So he uses psychological pressure.
And more. The source is clear. He uses her fear to sexually coerce her repeatedly.
Oh, God.
It's as Vianne feels he wants to hit her, but understands that making her afraid, letting that fear build, controlling her through that, it's more effective for him. So she has to perform this emotional subservience, strip away her dignity bit by bit, make him feel dominant, just to keep his suspicion away from the children.
Yeah,
Especially Daniel.
it's not passive compliance then. It's strategic self-sacrifice.
Now, completely active, a calculated destruction of self to protect them.
And the consequence of this horror is devastating.
Unimaginable. Vianne becomes pregnant by von Richter.
The war literally invades her body.
That's the core of her hidden trauma. And then Antoine comes home. He escapes the POW camp, finally makes it back.
He's changed too.
Severely changed. Thin, hair gone gray, his left arm broken and badly healed, a shadow of himself. And Vianne. She can't tell him the truth about the baby.
What does she tell him?
She lies. She says the baby was conceived their first night back together.
And Antoine, does he believe her? Or suspect?
It's ambiguous, but powerful. He looks at her, at the devastation of what they've both become, and he chooses. Well, he chooses denial as a form of love. He says to her, "We choose to see miracles."
Wow. We choose to see miracles.
It's heart-wrenching. It suggests he knows or suspects the horror, but he's choosing to ignore it, to salvage something, to save their future. Vianne feels crushed by the guilt, but also maybe anchors herself to the fact that he'd rather blind himself than lose her completely.
Okay, let's pivot now. Completely different energy. Isabelle Rossignol, Vianne's younger sister.
Yes, from Vianne's static, terrified world in Carriveau to Isabelle's active, rebellious life, mostly starting in Paris.
And Isabelle's background is different too. She wasn't settled like Vianne.
No, raised mostly in convents, boarding schools, always felt rejected by her father, Julien, especially after her mother died. She's constantly seeking his love, his approval.
So that rejection, that fuels her somehow.
Absolutely. Her defiance isn't just political, though it becomes that. It's deeply personal. It's about proving herself, forging an identity completely separate from the quiet compromise she sees in Vianne.
She gets to Paris, and the city itself is marked by the occupation.
Oh, deeply scarred. The description is vivid, like a once beautiful courtesan grown old and thin. Swastika flags everywhere, blacked out windows, German signs. They even changed the time. German time, 2 hours ahead. An assertion of dominance right down to the clocks.
And she finds her father, Julien, but it's not the reunion she hoped for.
No, devastating. He closed his beloved bookshop, Le Rossignol, because he refused to sell only the allowed books, the Nazi-approved list banning Freud, Mann, Trotsky, all the great thinkers.
So he resisted in that way.
He did. But then Isabelle finds out his compromise. He's working in service for the German High Command, at the Hôtel de Cléon, no less, a symbol of luxury and occupation power. And Isabelle feels it instantly. Shame. His shame, her shame.
But unlike Vianne, Isabelle's reaction isn't to find her own compromise.
No way. She finds work, but immediately throws herself into the resistance. a small cell at first, distributing pamphlets, tracts that expose German looting, talk about Allied operations. She uses her father's closed bookshop as a meeting place, a hub.
And she gets a code name.
Julia Gervais. That's her new identity.
Her impulsiveness, which Vianne worried about, that becomes important.
It becomes her defining trait and her greatest strength, in a way. The whole Nightingale escape route, it starts with an impulsive act. She helps a downed British RAF pilot, Lieutenant Torrance McLeish.
Just decides to hide him.
Pretty much on the spot.
Yeah.
And the logistics, they show the immediate grim reality. She hides him in this tiny, tiny secret room behind an armoire in her father's apartment.
How tiny.
6 feet by 6 feet. It was her childhood fort, barely big enough to lie down in.
And the conditions?
Brutal. The source says it immediately smelled terribly of sweat and urine. That's resistance. Not just grand gestures. It's claustrophobia, filth, the constant fear of discovery because a hidden man has basic human needs.
She gets deeper into the network, then.
Yeah, she starts meeting other resistors. Livy, a nuke who uses Baudelaire's Le Fleur du Mal, that dark poetry collection, as a signal for meetings.
Far.
And her friend Gaydon. She finds out he's involved in much riskier stuff, bombing depots, derailing trains. He's part of the Maquis, the armed partisans.
But Isabelle's main mission becomes the escape route, getting people out.
Yes, the Nightingale escape route. Getting downed Allied airmen, escaped prisoners, out of France, specifically over the Pyrenees Mountains into Spain. That requires planning, consistency, incredible bravery.
And her father, Julian, despite working for the Germans, he helps.
Secretly, yes. It's a fascinating twist. He provides these tiny pencil-sized coils of false identity papers.
Coils. How does she hide those?
She palms them expertly and hides them.
In her girdle.
In her girdle. Wow.
It's such a telling detail. Using femininity, domesticity as camouflage. Hiding the tools of resistance in plain sight, right on her body.
The methods they used to move the airmen, they were ingenious too. Astonishingly audacious. These men, often tall, obviously not French, speaking only English, they disguised them as Flemish farm workers or simple peasants.
And they used signs.
Yes. Signs reading deaf and dumb, waiting for my mom on to pick me up.
Seriously. And that worked.
Often, yeah. At checkpoints, the Germans just saw them as nuisances. Slow, maybe impaired, not the kind of threat they were looking for. They wanted clear enemies, not inconvenient peasants.
And Isabelle herself was good at manipulating the guards.
A master of distraction. There's that incredible story where she convinces a Gestapo agent to carry her suitcase.
Which was full of
false papers. She just flattered him since she was too tired, complimented his strength, played right into the male ego. It's brilliant, ruthless intelligence.
But the journey itself, the route over the Pyrenees, was brutal.
Extremely perilous. Long, agonizing walks. Isabelle's feet were constantly blistered, even in her sturdy espadrilles, climbing rocky hillsides in the dark, relying on these isolated passeurs, guys like Madame Babineau, who lived way out in this half-timbered house, seemingly built for isolation.
And the final crossing.
The Badasso River. Cold, dark water, with Spanish searchlights sweeping across. Terrifying.
And she did this repeatedly.
That's the incredible part. This wasn't a one-time thing. The numbers are staggering. As Julia Gervais, the Nightingale, she guided 87 airmen to safety. In just 8 months.
87 men. In 8 months.
And once they were in Spain, she'd meet with people at the British consulate. She actually secured money from MI9.
MI9, British Military Intelligence.
Section 9. They specialized in escape and evasion lines. So she wasn't just some rogue teenager. She was coordinating with, funded by, a formal Allied intelligence agency, running this critical operation from the ground, in espadrilles.
And the total numbers saved by the time of that reunion in '95.
The final count for the network, including her father's contribution with the papers, was over 117 men saved. Just an immense achievement, born from her defiance, her action, her refusal to just survive quietly.
But that kind of open defiance, it comes with a terrible cost. Eventually, Isabelle is caught.
Betrayed.
Yeah.
In 1944. And she's interrogated by the Gestapo.
The details are rough.
They are harrowing. 48 hours of intense physical abuse. Kicked, burned with cigarettes, locked in a freezing dark box. Over and over.
Why? What do they want?
Names. Her contacts, the network. They wanted her to break, to give up everyone else. The pain was so bad she started hallucinating, couldn't tell the difference between the cigarette burns and the freezing cold.
How did she possibly endure that?
Pure mental strength. She developed a mantra, repeated it over and over in her head. It doesn't hurt, it's just my body. They can't touch my soul.
She held out.
for the 2 days needed, protected the network. But the Gestapo, they realized physical pain wasn't breaking her spirit.
So they changed tactics.
They brought in her father, Julian, in shackles, forced him to watch her being tortured.
Oh, God. That must have been.
That was the moment she understood just how deep his involvement really was. He wasn't just a reluctant collaborator making papers. He was actively risking his life, fueling the whole Nightingale operation.
Does Isabelle survive the interrogation?
She does. But she's sent to Ravensbrück, the concentration camp for women.
And her father.
Julian doesn't survive his captivity, his death. Vianne finds out later. She finds a scrap of brown check fabric tied to her dead apple tree, her tree of remembrances. It's from him. Joining the scraps for Rachel, for Sarah, connecting the sisters again through shared devastating loss.
So while Isabelle is in Ravensbrück, Vianne is back in Carriveau. The war ends, the Germans leave, but there's more loss for her.
Yes, even after liberation. Jewish community leaders come to Le Jardin. They've come for Ari, for Daniel.
To take him away after Vianne risked everything.
It's an incredibly difficult ethical moment. Vianne saved his life, raised him as her own, but the leaders argue compellingly that Ari is the future of the Jewish people. He needs to be raised within his culture as a Jew, especially after the Holocaust has devastated their numbers.
What does Vianne do?
She's heartbroken, but she understands. She has this realization. She was focused on the heartbreak of one boy, but the man talking to her represented the heartbreak of his people. She has to let Ari go for the sake of preserving a future for his people.
Another hidden sacrifice.
A profound one, letting go of the child she saved.
Isabelle eventually comes back from Ravensbrück.
She returns, but she's broken, physically wrecked, sick. Her lungs are damaged, breathing hurts. But mentally, she seems certain, sure of the choices she made. She found meaning in that resistance.
But back home, things aren't easy between Vianne and Antoine.
The emotional gulf is huge. They're both so changed by their wartime traumas. Antoine from the POW camp, Vianne from the occupation, the coercion, the secrets. The source says they're play acting at love.
Play acting?
Yeah, trying desperately to reconnect, but the shared trauma is a wall between them. All they have to cling to is the memory of their childhood promise made by a pond long ago that they'd always find their way back to each other.
Does Isabelle offer any wisdom on this?
In one of their last talks, before Isabelle dies from her illnesses, she says something really piercing to Vianne. Love is such a slippery thing.
Slippery.
But Isabelle also seems at peace with her own life, despite the brutality. She tells Vianne, V, it's enough for me. Her life, her actions, they were enough.
That difference is stark, isn't it? Isabelle finds completion in action. Vianne still feels incomplete because her biggest sacrifice had to be hidden.
Exactly. Which brings us right back around to 1995.
The reunion in Paris. Vianne, now elderly, finally goes, and her son Julien goes with her.
The son who still thinks the war was mostly about his dad. Still operating under the men always think war is about them idea. He's there with his mother, this woman he realizes he barely knows.
And Vianne gets up to speak.
Takes the podium. This is it. Her moment to finally be known.
What does she say?
She tells the truth, the whole story. About Isabelle the Nightingale and their father, Julien Rossignol. How they ran the escape route. Saved over 117 men.
And she connects it to the future.
Beautifully. She emphasizes that every single man Isabelle saved didn't just survive. He went home. He created a family, children, grandchildren. She links Isabelle's courage directly to the creation of generations.
How does Julien react?
It's a moment of shattering clarity for him. He finally sees the gulf between them, understands his quiet mother is this woman in whole, not just defined by her relationship to him or his father. Vianne finally gets what she needed, to shed the secrecy, to be known for the complex, difficult life she actually lived.
And there's one more emotional beat.
Yes. Gaëtan, Isabelle's old love, the Maquis fighter. He approaches Vianne after her speech, and he just whispers, I loved her all of my life.
Wow. Seals the depth of Isabelle's impact.
It does. And Vianne's final thought in the narrative brings it all together. She reflects on her own survival with Sophie. We survived, together, against all odds. It acknowledges both kinds of heroism in her family.
Isabelle's loud defiance and Vianne's quiet, relentless endurance.
You know, looking back at all this, what really strikes me is how complex courage actually is. We started with that contrast, right? Vianne's quiet, daily moral compromises to save just one child.
And Isabelle's incredibly bold, reckless heroism saving 117 airmen.
And the source makes it clear neither path was easy or better. Both came at an immense, irreplaceable personal cost.
Vianne's cost was so internal, allowing Beck into her life for food. That horrifying submission to von Richter to protect Danielari, she literally had to dismantle her own dignity piece by piece.
All in secret. Her survival was paid for with silence, with shame, a burden she carried for 50 years.
Whereas Isabelle's heroism was all external. Action, movement, defiance, facing down machine guns, swimming rivers, manipulating guards, driven by that need to make a difference, maybe prove herself.
Her pain was often physical, the torture, the blisters, the illness from Ravensbrück. But she felt her soul remained untouched. You know, that mantra, they can't touch my soul.
We really have to sit with the weight of Vianne's secret pregnancy and Antoine's reaction. We choose to see miracles.
That phrase is just devastatingly profound. For Vianne, the compromise was survival. For Antoine, choosing to believe the lie, the miracle, that was his survival strategy. It let him hold on to the idea of the life he fought to come back to, instead of facing the full psychological horror of what happened.
That tension between the necessary denial and the awful truth, that feels like the deepest scar the war left on them.
Absolutely. And think about Isabelle's path again, the sheer grit. We romanticize the resistance, but the reality was smelly hiding places, constant pain, exhaustion. It wasn't one big heroic moment. It was 87 terrifying walks over and over, plus the stress of coordinating with MI9.
Yeah, the logistics alone are mind-boggling.
And then Vianne's other loss, having to give up Daniel after saving him, that paradox. Her greatest hidden achievement was ultimately temporary. She had to sacrifice her personal victory for the greater good of his community's survival.
Which circles back to Vianne's need in 1995. Not just admiration, but understanding. To be known for those impossible choices.
Isabelle found her completion in her actions. She felt her life was enough. Vianne only found hers decades later, by finally telling the story, giving voice to the silence.
And the legacy. Vianne framed Isabelle's legacy so powerfully. All those men saved, creating families, ripple effects through time. Monumental.
But Vianne's legacy, through telling the story, is just as critical. It validates the quiet war, the moral battles fought inside homes, the silent endurance. That's just as vital to understanding history as the battles and escapes.
So the takeaway for us, for you listening, Isabelle's line really resonates. Love is such a slippery thing.
We saw it in so many forms here. Isabelle Engaken's life-risking mission kind of love, Vianne's painful compromise love for Antoine, rooted in memory, and Vianne's fierce protective bond with Danielari.
So maybe the final provocative thought is about that slipperiness. How do we define love or heroism when the stakes are absolute survival?
Right. In peacetime, maybe we like clear lines, black and white, right and wrong. But Vianne's story, it shows this incredibly gray, agonizing reality. That sometimes, maybe the deepest act of love isn't defiance, but that silent, painful compromise made in the dark. Sacrificing your own purity, not to win the war, but just to help someone you love endure another day.
What actions truly define love when survival is everything? And how do those actions shape not just a life, but the memory and meaning of that life afterward? Something to think about.
Definitely.
Thank you for diving deep with us into this incredible story today.